Who's pushing these ridiculous narratives?
Let's get Krakow reports.
We got liars and propaganda today. Let's get started. I'm Mr. Simon. I'll be your host today. Good to see you, everybody. How we doing? Let's talk about what's happening in the Polish media. There's nothing really new to report, so I want to kind of dive into some of the myths and some of the propaganda that's being spread out there. Oh, and there's my co-host and producer, Mr. Simon. Yep, on the GoPro. Good to see you. Right on. We got ghosts in the closet. They'll be helping us out today, maybe. They might make an appearance. I don't know. They've been pretty quiet so far. Check this out. This is the main square in the center of Krakow. This shot was taken, 2019, 2020? And this would have been, I believe this was the first day of the COVID lockdown. And there's nobody out. There's nobody on the street. There's nobody in the heart of the city. Quite remarkable. You'll never see this again. At 4 o'clock in the morning, there are more people on the main square than you see in this shot. Anyway, let's get right into it. Once again, TVP World and their attempt at combating disinformation and pointing out propaganda. He's going to be talking about the Russian response to rumors of mobilization. They're going to have elections in September, which will be rigged. Sound familiar? Now, Putin wants to control the message. Putin doesn't want people to suspect that he's going to start pulling people off the street, even though he already is. So, TVP World.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. You're watching another edition of Break the Fake, where we debunk fake news and combat false narratives. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and let's get rolling. So Russia's logistical and military war machine is breaking down more and more frequently. But the Russian Ministry of Defense has found a solution. Pretend that nothing is going wrong and feed it more people. The regions have been handed a tough task.
Pretend like everything's okay.
More than
Sound familiar?
400,000 new contract soldiers by the end of 2026. There is one problem though. Carrying out the plan is becoming increasingly difficult because of massive losses on the front lines. So Russian recruiters are...
They're saying 1,000 to 1,500 Russian troops are being removed from combat every day. Removed, killed, captured, injured.
Are moving from recruitment to outright hunting. Men are being detained right on the streets. Students are being coerced into signing papers. The main focus is on debtors, people with legal problems, and medical professionals. And Russians are responding in the most predictable way possible by deserting. According to human rights activists from Peace Plea, at least 28,000 people in Russia have already been sentenced to prison for desertion, although analysts estimate the actual figure can be twice as high. Meanwhile, panic is growing over a possible new wave of mobilization following the September State Duma elections. Frightened Russians are already buying tickets and preparing to flee abroad, fearing another bum rush for sky-high price flights.
Rats fleeing a sinking ship.
Russian propagandist Vladimir Solovyov tried to calm fears of another mobilization by insisting Russia doesn't need one. Then he explained why and somehow made everything worse. Solovyov said most Russians are degenerates who would not understand why the Kremlin was ordering another mobilization. And even if Moscow did call them
doesn't
up,
make sense.
He admitted Russia is currently incapable of outfitting, equipping, training, and arming potential
We got no room
recruits.
for you.
Quite
Stay
the
home.
reassurance. Don't worry, Russia isn't mobilizing you. It can barely prepare you for war anyway.
These people who are long and deliberately, thanks to the damn idiotic educational reforms we've had for a long time, a whole segment of society has emerged that just like, and you want to go to this society with so many idiots and that kind of attitude and announce citizens the father is in danger. Well, conscientious ones are already, now to carry this out, no one's planning to do this. These people need to be clothed, equipped, armed, and trained. During the partial mobilization, we struggled because we couldn't quickly clothe, equip, and arm 300,000 people. The rifles they put into storage, it was enough to make you cry. We weren't prepared.
И тогда всем миром ходили, вообще скупали все, что есть в магазинах, как военной экипировки, так и туристической. Потому что было без слез не взглянешь. Да, сейчас после этого там многое изменилось, индустрия и прочее. Но все равно, а чтобы обучить такое количество, где мы инструктора возьмем? Вот единовременно взяли и всех призвали. Кто разгоняет эти дурацкие нарративы, когда люди даже посчитать не способны, насколько это сложно?
Which brings us back to those more than 400,000 new contract soldiers the Russian Ministry of Defense wants by the end of 2026. Moscow is demanding recruits, while its own propagandists admit the system cannot properly equip, train, or arm them. And these are the same people Solyov is calling degenerates. Now, that tells you exactly how this war machine operates.
So far, they've been relying on people signing up. The salary for a Russian soldier is, I don't remember what the exact figure is, but it's a good salary. It's like twice as much as, a decent job in Moscow. So people from poorer regions of Russia have been signing up because that's more money than they'll see in their lifetime working, the menial jobs from their home village. So it's quite lucrative. Putin can't sustain this kind of outlay. The tactic is to, promise them they'll be released from prison, to pay them more money than they've ever seen in their lives, and of course they're only lasting 24 hours to maybe a week, so Putin's betting that he doesn't have to actually pay out. However, this kind of expense is just unsustainable, so now they're looking at grabbing people off the streets with promises of redemption, probably promises of money as well, but with no intention of paying out. And it's getting harder and harder to find people. The Russian people are starting to realize that this is propaganda, and maybe they're not being told the whole truth. Sound familiar?
Contempt for the people going in, no capacity to properly prepare them, and another recruitment quota waiting at the end. So the Kremlin's dictator is apparently taking recruitment into his own hands, starting well before adulthood. During yet another stage interaction with the public, Vladimir Putin was visibly impressed by the dream of a schoolboy and immediately promised to help him pursue a military career.
We care a lot.
An 8th grader told Vladimir Putin that he dreams of enrolling in a military school so that one day he can fly a supersonic fighter jet. And that was enough to light up the bunker-dwelling connoisseur of youthful patriotism. Putin's response was immediate. Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Get that boy in the cockpit.
Now, a few things seem to excite the Kremlin quite like a 14-year-old already planning a future in uniform.
Добрый день. Тут неделю назад он вас приглашал. Я помню. Да, и теперь, смотри, Владимир приехал.
Спасибо, что откликнулись на мое приглашение. Я даже не ожидал, что вы так быстро приедете.
Спасибо, что пригласил.
Можно обратиться к вам как к верховному главнокомандующему?
Слушаю.
May I address you as Supreme Commander? Well, sure. My dream is to become a pilot, fly supersonic fighter jets, I want to enroll in the military academy, but they won't take me.
Писали письмо с родителями Министерства обороны, но я не знал о правиле, что туда можно поступать, туда принимают либо в 5-й, либо в 10-й класс. Можно попросить вас о помощи в 8-й переходе?
What a great patriot. Sound familiar?
Now, it might seem grim that a 14-year-old talks about his dreams and Putin is already helping steer him towards the military. But for the Kremlin, children from poor regions are a future resource for the same war machine now scrambling for manpower. Today, Putin sells them dreams of supersonic fighter jets. Tomorrow, the Kremlin will need bodies to fill the uniforms. And it clearly prefers to start recruiting early. Russian intelligence agencies are apparently cooking up another provocation. According to intelligence reports, they're reportedly considering false flag attacks in the Baltic states using captured Ukrainian drones. The idea is to create Russian sabotage with Ukrainian fingerprints. Lithuanian Defense Minister Robertas Kaunas says Russia plans to strike critical infrastructure in the Baltic region, blame Ukraine, and drive a wedge between its allies.
Now, we've seen the drone attack in Romania just a couple days ago. Now, apparently it was said that they suspected it was Russian, but it turned out to be Ukrainian. But with all this disinformation, with all these false flags flying around, you gotta wonder: was this a manufactured event? Russia is notorious for throwing stuff out there. They don't care. They don't care if they get blamed for it. They don't care if somebody else points the fingers at them. They just want to muddy the waters and presenting so much information that no one can keep track of it. You can't fact check at all. And when you're presented with too much information, especially of propagandistic nature, you're just going to shut down. No one can process all the information. Just flood the zone. Flood the zone with propaganda, and no one can keep track of it. And people just resign and shut down.
The region, blame Ukraine, and drive a wedge between its allies. Poland's foreign minister and Lithuania's president have previously warned about such acts of sabotage in Eastern Europe, citing information from their own intelligence agencies. And Moscow's response was about as subtle as you'd expect. Immediately after Kaunas' statement, Russian propaganda outlets flooded the internet with fake news, claiming that his warning was actually evidence that Ukraine is preparing a provocation. So the Kremlin gets accused of preparing a false flag, and his propaganda machine immediately starts building the cover story. Moscow appears to be manufacturing an informational alibi before the alleged sabotage operation even gets off the ground.
They're good at it. They know how to do this.
There is just one problem, though, with Moscow's brilliant scheme. See, people already kind of know about it. Ukraine's, Lithuania's, and Poland's intelligence services are exposing these alleged plans before they can even be carried out.
Doesn't matter with Donald Trump, he'll say it anyway. Everyone can see the truth. Everyone can know the truth, but he says, no, it's different. Some people listen. And the more he says it, the more true it becomes.
The Kremlin wants to use captured Ukrainian drones to sow distrust between European allies. Instead, Moscow keeps giving those allies another reason to share intelligence and coordinate. And with that, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake.
And with that, this concludes today's edition of the Krakow Report. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Check you on the flip side. All right.